Welcome to Elevate Care, the show where healthcare professionals, visionaries, and thought leaders come together to discuss the endless possibilities of healthcare innovation. I'm your host, Carrie Perez, and I am joined here today by Mo Abbas, President of Vendor Management Solutions at AMN Healthcare. Welcome, Mo.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for having me.
So excited to have you. So, hey, I first have to say, I met you a few years ago, and we started with the strategic planning process at AMN.
Yep.
And I just have to say, when you walked in the door, I was so impressed with the knowledge that you brought from the VMS space, as well as in the best way possible. You're such a truth teller and just kind of told everything like it was, and it was so refreshing. So thank you just for bringing this great knowledge to AMN. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Thank you again for having me. I've been in this industry for about 22 years, workforce industry, especially on the contingent workforce side. Started really more on the commercial side, so pretty much kind of done it all, MSP. But then in the last about 10 years, I focused more on the technology side of things. So I actually co-founded a leading VMS solution on the commercial side. Then actually healthcare started triggering my interest in the last few years. And I found AMN to be the perfect place to come and really move on with my innovative ideas for the healthcare industry.
I love that. So speaking of innovative ideas, we are here today to talk about internal float pool, internal agency. And I'm wondering, why is that a topic right now? What has changed in the healthcare landscape where it makes it relevant?
Absolutely. It's a big topic right now because post-pandemic, hospital systems, a lot of organizations start really having some hard time with the cost. And they wanted basically innovative solutions, creative ideas to attract, but also engage with clinicians. So any opportunity where they can actually bring talents from different kind of sources and channels to deploy them to open assignments, that's basically what the need came from. So it is really the need for speed and cost, reducing the cost as well. Okay.
And, I hear these terms interchangeably sometimes: internal agency, internal float pool. What's the difference?
It can get confusing sometimes, right? Let me kind of step back and talk about a little bit about the definition, right, of what we call an internal resource pool. Number one, it's not a new thing. It's basically been in the market for a long time. And simply an internal resource pool, Carrie, is a talent pool that our clients or hospital systems usually they attract and engage. And we're going to focus a little bit later on the word engage, because that's going to be a very key one. So they attract them. How do they attract them? From different sourcing channels. It could be somebody who worked there before. It could be a retiree. It could be somebody who applied for a full-time job through their ATS. So they basically have that talent pool that they can actually deploy them to different kind of engagements. So that's what we call an internal resource pool.
Okay.
Now, this is where you get into then, what is float pool and what is internal agency? They're very similar, right? They are a part of that internal resource pool. It's just the way you engage with the clinician. That's the only difference. The float pool is when you deploy the clinician for a shift-based engagement, while the internal agency is when you deploy the clinician on more longer-term assignments.
So if I'm a nurse, do I know the shifts that I'm going to, or am I kind of figuring that out on a daily basis? How's that experience for the nurse or the clinician?
Absolutely. Historically, that experience has not been very good. And that's why really the needs and the challenge for that hospital systems are really faced with is how can I actually deploy that nurse rapidly, quickly? If that nurse is ready to go, how can I actually go and direct that nurse to an open shift immediately? And that's what we're probably going to be talking a little bit more about, is how the technology have been evolving in the last kind of couple of years to really speed up that process of deploying the nurse into open shifts.
Okay. And does the nurse maintain a full-time position, or are they full-time in this resource pool?
That's a good question. Usually they are a full-time employee for the client or for the hospital system. It's just the way they're deployed, from how it sounds, floating, right? So they float from one hospital to another. For example, the hospital system might have 10, 15 locations. So that clinician might take one assignment or one shift tomorrow with hospital A. Next day, they might take another shift with hospital B. That's 10 miles away, right? End of the day, they are a full-time, but they're just they're deployed in a as needed basis, and they just don't go to the same job in the same location every day.
Okay. And so it saves the client money because they're able to utilize this nurse in multiple different shifts as opposed to having to find a single nurse for each one of these shifts?
100%. The client basically deploy these flexible float pools when they actually have all of a sudden an open shift needs. So let's say somebody on maternity leave, somebody goes to vacation, somebody basically out in unexpected way. They have that float pool who are very flexible, who can they just plug into these shifts. And then sometimes, why it's attractive has been, especially in the last couple of years, it's actually still a cost savings versus utilizing an agency, right, a staffing agency program fully to basically fulfill the shifts that they have.
Got it. Okay, so they are sort of operating the float pool.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned it's been around for a long time, but it might not be as easy to set up. What are some of the barriers that hospitals maybe face in setting up a float pool or internal agency?
That's a great question. It's basically the barriers is really around not having the right technology, right? Historically, when we looked at our clients, pretty much a lot of them, they have been managing their internal resource pool. There's no consistent way, number one. Sometimes they don't even have the right skill sets and the right setup to even manage it. But then the technology, right? Some of them, they actually manage it just on an Excel and email, right? Some of them, they manage it utilizing their HRIS system and sometimes it's not really fully, you can use it for that specific purpose. So there have not really been a really consistent and innovative way to actually manage it in an effective way. And that's why since the post-pandemic, that's really the innovation that has been happening. That's really the big change happening in the float pool is really these all new technology platforms that actually manage effectively. Number one, effectively the float pool. And then number two, very importantly, is combine it with the management of your contingent workforce program is key. Historically, they actually manage them separately. So even if they had to travel a program, let's say an external MSP, they always manage their float pool separately. And that's all, managing two separate things has always kind of created a lot of issues because you really don't have that visibility and control over just one system.
Increase speed to fill while reducing costs with ShiftWise Flex, a fully configurable VMS that leverages the power of artificial intelligence. Visit shiftwise.com to learn more.
Okay, so I've heard technology is key, the ability to sort of manage and see things sort of holistically.
Yep.
What are some other key must-haves that a hospital has to have in order to get this kind of up and running?
That's a great question. So since we start talking about technology, I'm going to start talking about technology. So a workforce technology platform is key here. And that technology platform could be as simple as a vendor management solutions. But Carrie, nowadays the VMS is way beyond the VMS, not just the VMS, right? So having the right components of a technology platform is key, especially when that technology platform can actually plug into the client's or the hospital system's back office system to automate and create a lot of efficiency. A couple of examples is when it automate with their HRS system, automate with their time and attendance system like a Kronos, for example. The client can actually incur a lot of what we call the soft dollar savings by actually automating some of these processes. So that's technology. Number two, when you get into really the other must-haves or the other things is clinician experience. The way you engage with the clinician, remember a minute ago, we talked about ability for the client to attract but engage. The engagement is key here because the way you engage the clinician is after you attract them. If you don't keep engaging them, especially between assignments and shifts, they might just go work somewhere else. So having a really good technology like a mobile application where you're keeping to engage the clinicians, push auto matching, for example, the clinician with open jobs. even the ability for the clinician to have the freedom to schedule themselves, to book themselves, to have a really nice view in a mobile app where they can say, okay, I'm taking a shift tomorrow, I'm skipping the day after tomorrow because I'm going to be off. So let them manage their own schedule, but they need a technology to do that. They can submit their own credentialing, for example, in that mobile application. So, and then even beyond the shift management, that clinician experience really also involve even pushing, to them some kind of like a community updates or any updates that really they have, around where they live or around where they work. So the clinician experience is very key here. A third part of this is the compliance and credentialing. Compliance and credentialing, of course, in hospital or in the healthcare staffing is a very key, right? Usually a clinician cannot work for a hospital system until they're fully credentialed. And the credentialing and the compliance carry is two parts. Part of it is the technology itself, so having an easy technology that can give the clients the visibility to manage the credentialing, but even the ongoing management of the credentialing. Give you an example, manage an expiration date for credentials and the compliance. But then this is not just a technology play, Carrie. It's also wrapping up the process, the approach around the technology. Mm-hmm. So compliance and credentialing is a third component. A fourth component is a centralized scheduling platform. And this is where the hospital system have a really holistic view of scheduling. So it's really a nice view of it's kind of part of the technology where you can look at the schedule and you can actually easily find out, okay, I have an open shift here, so it's actually easy to go fill it, right? So that visibility, that scheduling platform visibility is very key also for the component part of managing a float pool. And then finally, part of it is, which is, you're hearing a lot, and that's really one of the big innovative things that we've been seeing in the last couple of years is smart analytics and market insights. And especially when you provide it in a self-service. So using really an AI for data analytics, really supporting the client with data to really give them the information they need to make informed decision on their workforce strategy, right? So having that reporting and data analytics on more a self-service base. And then it's basically really finding out what's going on with their program. We talked a minute ago about combining your internal resource pool with your own contingent workforce to really give the client that holistic management and view and visibility and control also of their workforce strategy. And then you have market insights. Market insights, especially during the pandemic, a lot of hospital systems during the pandemic felt that they paid too much money, right? They basically said, did we actually overpay? And this is where the need starting, for a really true visibility into market insights. So now having a dashboard that really gives the client a market insights around, okay, am I paying on market? Above market, below market, and then really, they're looking at the data themselves and making a decision on really changing their, where the rates that they wanted to provide. And Carrie, all of these components that we talked about, it serves two things. Number one is the speed. So speeding of deploying the clinician. Number two is the cost. And then, as you know, there's a hard dollar, soft and a soft dollar cost savings that they can achieve there.
Super great overview. A lot to take in. Not to put you on the spot, but could you rattle that list off just in the list order of what the must-haves are?
Sure. So number one is a technology platform, a workforce technology platform. Number two is the clinician experience. Number three is the centralized scheduling platform. Number four is the credentialing and the compliance piece of it. And then number five is the data analytics and the market insights.
Oh, perfect. Super helpful. One last pull on that clinician experience. Why is this a great kind of choice for a clinician? Why are they attracted right now to Float Pool?
It's the freedom of building their own lifestyle. It's the freedom of basically really managing their own schedule, right? You have and that's why we keep saying the engagement of the clinician. They can book themselves for the next 5 weeks, or they can book themselves for the next 2 days and then block off their calendar for a couple of days. So it's really their freedom of doing the work whenever they want to do it, and it's at their base, basically.
Have you seen any sort of like success from a hospital where you can actually kind of talk to the savings or, whatever those key metrics of success are for them?
100%. Yeah, there's basically a few of them, but the one that's basically kind of in my mind is we basically have a client in the East Coast. They are basically a multi-location, large academic medical center. At one point, they were managing 2 separate programs. One program, which is their external traditional MSP, and then they had also internally managing their internal resource pool. They were having a lot of issues with basically just visibility, or managing 2 different pieces that really they should be really together. What we did is we basically brought this program, we basically custom built a technology platform for them. And they basically went from external management of an MSP to actually more a self-service. So we armed that client or that hospital system with the technology. We basically also integrated with their back office system. So they actually immediately gained a lot of efficiency. And again, this is what we talk about, the soft dollar savings there. So part of this, deploying the workforce technology for that client, they achieved many things. Number one, they were able to still manage about 80 suppliers. They were actually able to save about 20% on their contingent workforce spend by really doing the proper utilization of their workforce. And then this is basically all around the workforce optimization that they went through. They were actually able to fill an average of about 17,000 per diem shift per month. And then while managing, they had about 700 internal resource pools that they basically attracted, and they were able to really keep engaged for the long term.
Oh, that is excellent. Mo, thank you so much. I have one last sort of personal question.
Sure.
Why are you hopeful about healthcare today?
I'm very hopeful because there's a lot of innovation happening in the healthcare sector there. And end of the day, our goal, Carrie, is to provide our clients in the hospital systems with really the best solutions to really end of the day continue providing excellent patient care. I think that's end of the day, that's what's the goal. If you ask what's the overall goal of a hospital system, they just want the right clinician in the right time and the right price, right? So we're here to help our hospital system focus on what they do better, which is patient care.
Fantastic. Such great information today. Thank you for keeping innovation going at AMN and within the healthcare industry. Thank you for joining us today on Elevate Care. If you found this episode valuable, please consider sharing it with a colleague and subscribing to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com, and follow us on social media to stay updated on new episodes and the ever-changing world of healthcare.